I want to do a full review of the Omega Seamaster 300 Co-Axial. We'll go through the different specs, the measurements, how it wears on the wrist, how it measures up to the other Seamasters and Omega's lineup. And hopefully through this video, you can kind of get a sense of what this watch is all about. And I think for the price point, it's a very compelling watch. I mean, this watch retails for about $6,800, but it can be had in the gray market and secondhand for way cheaper than that, for like, you know, the 4,000s and 5,000s. So the Seamaster 300 is actually inspired by the 2913.3, which is an older Seamaster that came out, I think, sometime in the 60s. So really cool to see Omega kind of bring some of that design DNA back with this one. So let me bring this watch in front of the camera for all of you guys to see. As you can see, it's a very stunning dial, very classic, elegant look. Now let's run through some of the dimensions real quick. So the lug to lug distance on this one is 48 millimeters. The diameter is 41 millimeters. And then the thickness of the watch is 14.5 mil thick. And that's from the extremity of the back of the display case back all the way to the top of the slightly domed sapphire crystal. While it may appear a little bit thicker just based off of the numbers, it has a very nice slim profile to it. And when the watch is on wrist, it really feels very well balanced and not as thick as the stated dimension would suggest. The lug width is 21 millimeters and it has a very light taper down to 19 millimeters. And then let's talk about the technology that's in this watch real quick. So this is Omega's in-house master coaxial, master chronometer certified caliber 8400. Now this is a really solid movement. You know, Omega in recent years have just come out swinging with amazing movements with really good technology in them. This 8400 boasts a 60-hour power reserve, and that's due to the twin mainspring barrels that are powering this watch. The watch itself is highly amagnetic, up to 15,000 Gauss. So this thing can take like an MRI machine. It's very, very tough, very rugged. And then it also has a free sprung balance for shock protection as well. This watch beats at the coaxial frequency of 3.5 Hertz or 25,200 vibrations per hour. Let's take a look at the dial details, which is really the highlight of the watch. You can see that this watch has kind of a very matte finish on the dial itself. And you'll see sunken registers for the hour markers. So they're kind of recessed into the dial, almost like a sandwich dial. There is actually faux tina applied on all the hour markers, along with the tip of the hour hand and the full minute hand, and then also the tip of the seconds hand. You know, the elements of the matte dial along with the faux tina are just very tastefully executed and give this watch a very traditional, classic look to it without, you know, trying too hard to look old-fashioned or look vintage. I think it's a very tasteful execution. So I think all the elements really kind of come together very, very nicely. Then you'll see there's also the Omega logo, and then the 12, 3, 6, and 9 done in like a silver printing. And the silver itself is almost kind of like a matte finish as well. So everything on the dial is very understated and very classic looking. And then of course at the 6 o'clock, you'll see the text stating that this is a master coaxial and a chronometer, but it's actually really nice because it's very simple. It doesn't have too much. I think an example of a dial that's very crowded with a lot of text is the Tudor Pelagos with, you know, basically like a mini paragraph that's on the dial. So I think they really kept it simple and kept it very clean on this dial. And then also there's differential lume on this watch. So all of the hour markers and the tip of the hour hand are lumed with blue lume, and then the minute hand and the lume pip will actually glow in a green lume. So there's differential lume on this watch, which makes it very easy to discern hours and minutes, especially in the dark. And then you can line up this bezel pip with the hour hand to see the elapsed time. And it's nice that both of those are green because you can really make out how many minutes have passed. And speaking of the bezel action, it's very smooth on this watch. Very easy to grip due to that coin-edged bezel. And this is leagues better than the scalloped bezel on previous generations, where the knurling of the scalloped edge just makes it very hard to grip and to turn. This is a very refined bezel. And I think Omega should really use this in more of their watches, especially in, you know, their new generation Seamasters. I know the scallop bezel is a very classic design, but it would be nice to see the implementation of an easier to grip bezel on more of their dive watches. I found really no legibility issues with this watch at all, day or night. There's very little reflectivity off of the sapphire glass as well, which is good to see. And then you'll notice on this watch, there's no crown guards, there's no helium escape valve, so it does look very traditional, very classic. The bezel is ceramic, if I didn't mention that. The clasp is also very nicely done on this watch. It features Omega's push slider system for easy on-the-go adjustment. It's one of the best in the biz, and it's very easy to operate. On this model, there's actually no dive extension, which I actually really love because it keeps the clasp at a really reasonable size. And then the bracelet itself, the finishing on the bracelet, you see there's actually polished center links, and then the outer flanks are actually brushed. So this bracelet will show a little bit more wear and tear as a result of that, but it does dress up the piece very nicely. Now let's walk through perhaps one of my favorite features on this watch. If you pull the crown out to just the first position, normally that is a quick set date function on a lot of watches. Like on the Omega Caliber 8800, it's a quick set date. But on this watch, you'll see that it actually has a jumping hour feature, which is extremely useful. I can't tell you how many times I've needed this feature, like when I'm traveling. Obviously, I can't do much traveling right now, but this is very convenient because the second hand continues to run. You don't lose any of your chronometric precision, but you can jump the hour to, you know, the time zone that you're in. This watch is just extremely convenient for travel, and I think a lot more watches should start incorporating this feature because it is a huge selling point. It's one of the reasons, quite honestly, that I was looking at this example is because of that convenience. It's awesome. There's really not a lot of bad things to say about this watch. I guess the only thing is just the objective thickness. Now I know that it doesn't wear terribly thick on the wrist, and I'll give you guys a wrist shot here. On my 6.5 inch wrist, you can see that it wears well. It's very balanced, and it doesn't come off as a thick watch at all. It's actually very well proportioned because, as I mentioned, the case profile is very thin. Also, the bottom of the case really kind of just melds into your wrist, and you know, gives the watch a very balanced look and feel on the wrist. And it's not very heavy either. It's not overly hefty. The bracelet is actually very thin, but still very solid and feels very comfortable on the wrist. And I do enjoy that taper as well. So could the watch benefit from 1 millimeter or 2 of reduced thickness? Yes, definitely. I think the issue with a lot of Omega watches, particularly divers, is just the overall thickness, especially when you have Rolex and Tudor with, you know, case thicknesses of 12 to 13 mil. I can't comprehend why Omega can't strive for the same thing. I know that they like to do their display case backs. They like to dome their crystals a little bit, but that is definitely an area of improvement. And this watch does look really great with a variety of straps and outfits as well. So this is a piece that I think can be dressed up or dressed down. It can definitely fit under a suit jacket or any kind of jacket. It might not fit under the tightest of dress shirt sleeves, but it'll look good in pretty much any occasion, any situation. Jeans and a t-shirt, suit and tie. I think it'd be really cool to see Omega kind of start going in this direction with some of their dive watches. Timeless, classic, elegant design, functional bezel, no helium escape valve, no crown guards, tapered bracelet, very comfortable. I really enjoy it. Like I said, it has all the workings and all the potential to kind of be a classic in Omega's lineup. Some would argue that if Omega did not discontinue this watch, I think they discontinued production either in the 70s or 80s, it came out in the 50s, that this would be a strong contender for the Rolex Submariner, just due to its classic design. Omega, obviously, they went through some rough times during the quartz crisis, but if they continued on with some of these classic models, such as this one, this would have been as timeless a classic as a sub, if not more. with history going back many decades. Let me know what you guys think about this watch. How does this stack up to other divers in Omega's current lineup? How does it stack up to Omega's competitors, such as Rolex? Leave some comments below. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. And if you haven't gotten a chance to, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate the support as I continue to grow the channel. Your support really means a lot to me, guys. I will catch you in the next video. Thanks again, guys. Cheers.